lambs. Today's episode caught me off guard again. Now, you know True Crime Tuesdays usually comes out in the afternoon and is also a small case, lamb. Let me tell you, this case required a deep dive and turned into a full episode. So I'm not going to apologize for how late this is coming out because this episode is going to be worth the wait. Let me tell you the insanity. Let me get straight into it. Oh yeah. And since one day I got a 1-star review which said, quote, and I quote, please, trigger warning for animal abuse. Look, I love true crime. I'm sure that your podcast is great. You both seem like charismatic people. I really regret listening to this, to be honest. Please put a trigger warning on your episodes that include animal abuse. Just because people like true crime against humans, they're awful, does not mean they're okay hearing messed up things about innocent animals. End quote. Yeah, I talk about people murdering children and babies, but forgetting to give a warning about animal abuse is where you draw the line. Okay, so with that being said, trigger warning, horrible animal abuse ahead. On Monday, July 26, 2021, a body of a man was found laying face down in the River Cherwell at Parsons Pleasure in Oxford, UK. At the time of this discovery, police had no idea if this was murder, if it was murder, who was involved, what was going on. And there's going to be a video actually of how the body was found in my Patreon. The body was sent off to the coroner, and the body was found to be that of Jorge Martin Carreno, who was 30 years old and from Spain, who was currently living and working in Oxford, UK. Jorge was actually born a triplet, and he was studying electrical engineering and was a musician. He did photography, he loved reading, and he loved sports. The family posted a tribute to Jorge. Quote, we as a family wish to pay tribute to Jorge, like I said, our beloved son and brother, an extraordinary being full of passion and kindness. He was distinguished by his incredible affection, friendliness, and his ability to give himself fully to others. Jorge's innate curiosity and creativity drove him to explore, learn, and experiment tirelessly. He studied electrical engineering, where his dedication and passion were evident in every project he undertook, manifesting in a deep commitment to innovation. So now they know who this person is, and the Thames Valley Police continue to investigate. During the investigation, they saw somebody on CCTV footage going through the streets, just wandering aimlessly, but they looked at that person really closely because this person was dressed in, quote, heavy military style clothing, as they said. They had a camo hooded jacket. They had on a rucksack. If you don't know what a rucksack is that backpack that they use in the military. And they had on a face mask. So investigators are really curious as to who this person was and what did they have to do in relation to Jorge? In April of 2023, y'all heard me. This happened in 2023 now. The UK received information from the United States. This information said that the United States investigators had identified the person that was viewed on the CCTV. So Oxford investigators did more research, more investigating, went through asking a bunch of questions, and ultimately, on August 9th, 2023, they arrested a trans person named Scarlet Blake on suspicion of murder. Wow. Okay, so this happened in July of 2021. They found out who was on the CCTV in April of 2023, and they did so much investigative work that they didn't arrest the person until August 9th. That is crazy. So Scarlett, like I said, was arrested, and they initially arrested Scarlett on suspicion of murder, but ended up fully charging Scarlett for the murder of Jorge. Brief break before I go into who is Scarlett. If you're still listening, thank you for being here, and go ahead and subscribe to Love and Murder on whatever platform you're on so you don't miss any episodes that come out. And I also want to say that this case has so much evidence that was released to the public. And I have all of this in the Lamb Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder. I offer the Patreon so that you, the Lambs, are the sponsors of Love and Murder. You're the ones who request episodes. You're the ones who tell me if you like the show or not big retail companies who could tell me what they do and don't want me to do on my show. No, I work for you, the Lambs. Some companies tell me to tone down my show, don't say certain things I say, and to that, I say no. I will not be censored, and that's just it. Period. So, if you want to support Love and Murder and get these extras and more, be a sponsor of Love and Murder, so basically my boss, and to help me bring you better episodes and the ability to get episodes out on time, sign up for my Patreon or any of the other options in the supporters club, which the links are in the show notes below. Patreon is your best bet, though, because you can get video and everything else that I can't post on the other platforms. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. Now, back to the show. So, like I said, who is this Scarlett? 25-year-old Scarlett, who was previously known as Alice Wang, had come to the UK from China at 9 years old. Scarlett told her parents when they were 12 that they were transgender, and apparently it became a problem to their family. So this is just a little hint of Scarlett's background. After Scarlett was arrested, they said that they were innocent, but due to the evidence, police were not falling for that. Actually, in body cam footage, part of what's going to be in the Patreon, Scarlett is seen asking for nicotine patches and answering, quote, no comment, to all questions police asked. Scarlett is also heard/seen, because it's body cam footage, saying, quote, I don't know, it feels like being arrested and also withdrawals all at the same time. And then the officer says, quote, yeah, that's not a good concoction, is it? To which Scarlett responds, quote, it could be worse. At least it's not genocide. Like, excuse me, what? So like I said, I'll have that video in Patreon. So Scarlett's trial started in February of 2024. We are now in 2024, y'all. This happened probably when they lifted some of the restrictions during the pandemic, so 2021. We are now in 2024 when this trial starts. Scarlett started off by telling the story of how they came out as trans and the family didn't accept them, and said, quote, it made my father really unhappy and my mother as well, and caused a large emotional rift. Scarlett said they became, quote, not friendly to themselves, and that it would, quote, encompass classical things such as cutting myself to putting myself in dangerous situations. So the judge was like, hold on. Judge Martin Chamberlain. Sorry, I apologize for that very offensive introduction, Judge. Judge Martin Chamberlain said, hold on, jury, wait, court and jury. Look, the fact that Scarlett is trans, quote, on its own has no particular relevance to the case. It doesn't make it any more or less likely that she is guilty of the offense with which she is charged, end quote. He also told the jury to, while you're listening to everything going on, all the evidence being given to you, consider Scarlett's, quote, stature and consider whether you believe that Scarlett was, quote, physically able to carry out the attack on Jorge. Now, the stature in question, Scarlett was approximately 69 kilograms, which is like 10 stone, 12 pounds, which I have no idea what that means, 10 stone. But over here in the US, we would say 152 pounds. And that's not a dig at my UK listeners. It's actually a dig at myself. I really don't know what 10 stone mean. If I ask my mother, being that she grew up in a British place, she'll know what that means. I don't know what that means. So, recap. Scarlett weighed 152 pounds or 10 stone, 12 pounds, 69 kilograms. Jorge weighed less than Scarlett. Jorge was only 57 kilograms, which was 9 stones or 125 pounds. And both Scarlett and Jorge were around the same height, which was 5'7" or 171 centimeters. Now, in the trial, we're going to get to how everything unfolded. First of all, Jorge did not know Scarlett at all. It's not like they were friends or they ever met. He didn't know Scarlett at all. So that night, Jorge had been coming home from chilling with his boys. As you can see in the CCTV footage, he is seen with, quote, an unidentified individual, and then was later spotted walking away from them. So basically what happened was they left a bar or wherever they were. He was with a friend and they said their goodnights, and one went left and one went right. That's literally it. But in more CCTV footage, you can see who we now know is Scarlett wearing this hoodie, the rucksack, and everything like that, following Jorge later on. Prosecutors said that Scarlett hit Jorge over the back of the head with a vodka bottle and then choked him before pushing him into the River Cherwell. There, he drowned. So he was still alive and he drowned to death. And there's still more to that. Scarlett then told jurors, I don't think that's correct because I don't exercise. And I don't exercise to, quote, avoid masculine muscle gain. So if you really think about it, I'm actually the equivalent of a, quote, unfit female. So could I have really taken Jorge? I have nothing to add to that. That's what Scarlett told the jurors. Now, this murder, as the jurors and the court are finding out, came 4 months after Scarlett live streamed killing a cat before placing it in a blender. You heard me. 4 months ago, Scarlett had live streamed themselves murdering a cat and then placing the cat's body in a blender. What in all the F's? So, when the court and everybody's now looking at Scarlett like, what the Scarlett said, look, I started dating Ashlyn Bell, who is also a trans person, and Ashlyn Bell is in the US. We were in an online relationship, and here you can see the messages. So in one message, Scarlett wrote to Ashlyn and said, quote, I'm a borderline sociopath. I love death. Laugh out loud. The court also saw video calls that Scarlett had made to Ashlyn where it shows Scarlett cutting themselves so that Ashlyn could watch it. And then there's also a video that shows Scarlett putting a noose around their neck, and another video showing Scarlett consensually tying a ligature, quote, consensually tying a ligature around Ashlyn's neck from behind and then pulling it so tight that Ashlyn fell unconscious. Then the court read a message that Skylar sent to Ashlyn that said, quote, I would film me murdering my mom for you. I'd also want to kill my dad one day. So now the court is back to looking at Scarlett like, explain? And Scarlett was like, no. Look, you are taking this out of context. Most of our messages were, quote, murder themes and metaphors, and that Ashlyn was, quote, not openly receptive to talking about emotions. So we just talked about murder. You know when your partner's not interested in talking about emotions, like I love you, how closely I feel about you, you just switch over just nonchalantly to murdering your parents. You know how that is. You right? Juror number 3, I see you know what it is. Like what? Quote, in short, it's a fantasy dress up, saying I'm hurt about the way I was brought up and I'm sad about it. What does that have to do with the way you were brought up? Okay, never mind. Let's continue. So Richard Sutton, who was defending Scarlett, said, quote, can you explain to the jury in your own words how you came to kill the cat and dissect it? So Scarlett said, yeah, sure. Which, by the way, just so you know, Scarlett had pled guilty to charge of criminal damage relating to killing the cat. So just so you know that, but not guilty to murder. Okay, so Scarlett said, sure, I can tell you about that. First of all, just so you know, jury and your honor, this was not something that I wanted to do. Quote, very much didn't want to, just in Scarlett's words. So I, quote, emotionally distanced myself from the animal, quote, to be able to do it. Quote, it's something to make Miss Bell happy. It's something that she wanted me to do, so I pretended to enjoy it. End quote. One of the prosecutors, Allison Morgan, said that Scarlett found, quote, sexual gratification from the thought of violence and the thought of death. So, going back to the cat. They played a video. First of all, they warned the jury. What you're seeing here is really, really graphic. So I'm going to warn the listeners. What you're about to hear is really, really graphic. So they played a video of Scarlett that Scarlett filmed killing the cat. And this video was so graphic that they only played it in like an edited format. I think they only showed actually, let me backtrack. I think they only showed stills of the video. Yeah, sorry, I had to go check. They only played stills of the video. They didn't even play the video because it was just so graphic. So they saw stills of Scarlett smiling at the camera. They saw stills of Scarlett smiling with the cat restrained, and audio was also played with these stills. And Scarlett said, quote, "Here we go, my little friend. Oh boy, you smell like shit. I can't wait to put you through the blender." So Scarlett killed the cat, family cat, by the way, dissected the cat, removed its fur and its skin, and then put the body in a blender. And while all this is going on, in the audio, you can hear a song by New Order. And it's a song that was played on a Netflix documentary called Don't Fuck with Cats. And that was about a man who killed cats and murdered a human. So again, just like last Tuesday, it very loosely has to do with true crime. And if they try and act like Scarlett watching this true crime doc is the reason Scarlett did this, I'm going to flip a table over. I'm going to flip my desk over. So let's see if we're flipping desks over today. So after that was played, the prosecution also provided evidence showing that Scarlett boasted, quote, boasted about killing the cat and told other people, quote, of her desire to open up a person like her little cat friend. Now, what do I always say? If you're going to commit a crime, tell everybody you know and everybody you don't. Make sure you have as much evidence as possible that can come back to you. So, remember Scarlett said, "I didn't want to do this. It was for Ashlyn. It was all for Ashlyn." So then the prosecution asked, "Well, why are you smiling at the camera while you're murdering the poor cat?" And Scarlett said, quote, "It was a very choreographed laugh. I'm pretty sure my face wasn't like that the whole time. Look, even if I had to go out and hunt my own animal so I wouldn't starve to death, in nowhere in that process would I be smiling. Even knowing I'm about to eat and like I haven't eaten in like 20 days and I'm about to eat my first meal. In no time in that process would I be smiling. It was a very choreographed laugh. I'm pretty sure my face wasn't like that the whole time. Your indignant attitude makes me want to smack the words out of your mouth." See, these are the types of things that, sponsors, big companies don't want me to say. So sorry, not sorry. I feel that some of these things need to be said because the sheer audacity, the stupidity, that's all I got to say. Scarlett went on to say that, quote, "At the end of the period when I didn't really eat anything for 3 months, and that was also one of Miss Bell's demands." So basically, Scarlett likened this to, quote, "automatic response to classical conditioning." Quote, "I was trying to meet the demand and be happy about it. Narrate a different persona to act as if I was someone who enjoys the suffering of others and animals." So Scarlett's lawyer, Mr. Sutton, asked Scarlett, "How can you bear to cause suffering to the cat?" And Scarlett said, quote, "I felt awful. I felt guilty. I felt lost. I expected the cat to die a lot faster. This was, quote, something I can do without looking like I'm freaking out. And what I did at the time was, quote, pretended the pet wasn't real or sentient. I call complete and utter bullshit. The cat is probably howling, yowling, screeching, crying, clawing, squirming, anything to survive. In where in that universe were you able to pretend that your pet wasn't real or sentient?" I'll wait. Yeah, because you have no answer. There's no freaking way. You're just spraying bullshit. Then the court heard that later on in the live stream, Scarlett said, quote, "Well, I wonder where I learned to do this to a person." Didn't like it, huh? Detective John Capps then also said that what the jury had been seeing or hearing, even I guess the pictures and everything and what they had to hear was, quote, truly disturbing, and that all jurors would be offered support due to the nature of the evidence that was provided. He also said, quote, this defendant showed calculated cruelty. The acts Blake has been convicted are barbaric and chilling. The murder was premeditated with total disregard and disdain for life. I want rather to focus on Jorge and his family and pay tribute to them and the enormous dignity they have shown throughout this ordeal. Judge Chamberlain agreed, and he also said that the killing of the cat was, quote, relevant to this case. Quote, well, certainly the cat incident is relevant because it casts a light on how the defendant's attention developed, and that issue is relevant to the sentence, the minimum term, rather, for murder. So prosecution now went in and said that you heard about Jorge being out with his friends and him trying to come home when Scarlett stopped him. And you saw the CCTV of Scarlett going through the streets. They said, quote, prowling the streets of Oxford looking for a victim, and what Scarlett was wearing, even a face mask. They also said that Scarlett was, in their opinion, was carrying a, quote, murder kit, which inside of that bag, that rucksack, was a garrote and a leopard print dressing gown cord, which Scarlett said, nah. Scarlett said, even though you have this evidence, I wasn't looking for a victim that night. I went for a walk because I couldn't sleep. And I saw Jorge, Mr. Carreno, walking, and I decided to just walk with him. Quote, I don't know how he died. I assumed he drowned. It wasn't something I did. As to how, I still don't know. I wasn't there. So her defense jumped on that and said, he could have killed himself. Anybody else could have done it. He could have killed himself. And his friends were like, no, he's not the type. And then the pathologist took the stand, Dr. Brett Lockyer, and said, no, Your Honor, I do not believe that Jorge died accidentally or Jorge died by suicide. So they went back to Scarlett, and during the cross-examination, Scarlett said, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I have a fragmented personality. And one of my personalities is that I'm a cat. And then literally, and I'm not shitting you here, literally meowed to the jury to show how they might interact with friends. Quote, with friends I know quite well who are aware of this part of me. I meowed at them in greeting. There's a part that is just a cat, which is strange, and that seems to me what the happy part of me is, in that they come out when I'm happy. It is quite strange. It is very prominent when I'm expressing certain emotions. For example, the cat has a pretty strong association with joy, and I suppose the innate goodness. It is a kind of childhood innocence. So this is how you think of a cat, so you kill one and put it in the blender? And I'm just wondering, so first it was, I'm a trans who wasn't accepted by my parent, feel bad for me. Or, it's Ashlyn's fault. They wanted me to do crazy shit to have sex. Oh, okay. You're not believing that one. Okay. I got another one. I'm crazy with the split personality, one of them being a cat. I plead guilty due to insanity. Yes? No? Because if no, I can come up with something else. I'm just saying, I'm spitballing here. I got a lot of stuff here. No? To which the prosecution let Scarlett ramble. And then they were like, here, let me play this tape for you, Your Honor. And just imagine them slowly pressing play. In that tape, the court heard Scarlett confess to Ashlyn that she had killed Jorge using a homemade garrote before throwing his body into the water. Yes, and you heard previously, they said what was in that rucksack, which they called it a kill bag or something like that. They said that garrote was in there, right? And Scarlett said what? Scarlett said, nuh-uh. Exhibit A, Your Honor. And for those of you who didn't know, because I didn't know what a garrote was, it's like, the dictionary said it's typically an iron collar, or it's typically with an iron collar, or a length of wire or a cord. So literally one of those things that has a wire in the middle, and at the two sides you like have these handles to hold it. And you see it in action movies where they use it to strangle somebody. So that's a garrote. To which in my head, I'm just imagining this. So after they heard that confession, everyone in the court in unison turned towards Scarlett, who then turned towards everyone in the court and said, meow. I'm just playing. I just see that in my head. That's what I saw. And also, you know what? Why a cat? A cat wouldn't murder a person. I mean, they probably want to, but they can't. You should have done better by just saying that, you had a split personality and one of them was a bear, which I guess still would be weird because a bear mauls and doesn't strangle. Like, could you imagine a bear being caught on camera in the woods holding a garrote? Go to sleep. Go to sleep. I'm hungry. Go to sleep. Shh, 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 shh. Go to sleep. I'm just saying. Either way, it's weird. Like, just, ugh. So, after that was played, and the court literally is now looking at Scarlett, Scarlett said, look. This is not what it looks like or what it sounds like. I made this whole thing up. I invented the details of the murder because Ashlyn over there wanted me to kill somebody. And this was after Ashlyn over there wanted me to live stream killing a cat. Quote, I wasn't interested in or willing. It was an awful thought to me. In the interest of keeping her happy because I wanted her to kill me one day because it's sexually stimulating for me, that idea. She was wanting to make me do this thing and I was pretty much, at a limit after going through the killing of the cat. I mean, for either one of them, there's literally a time when you could say no. I mean, Ashlyn is way across the pond in the US. You could literally hang up the phone, turn off the video camera, shoot them the middle finger, say, I'm not doing this, you crazy bitch. Any number of things you could have done. I don't know how Ashlyn forced you without a plane ticket for you to, how many of you, by show of hands, how many of you have been forced to do something by somebody that's not even on the same continent of you? Anybody? I'm seeing a lot of hands not being raised. Okay, that's what I thought. So Scarlett's defense asked the judge to consider that the murder was a, quote, initiation ceremony to impress Ashlyn. Don't consider that it was a crime motivated by sexual pleasure, Your Honor. Quote, it would be more likely in the circumstance in this case that the motivation was not sexual, but to gain approval, impress those with which she was involved. The prosecution said to the judge if they would please consider this murder involving, quote, sexual conduct because of the evidence that we brought forth in court. Basically saying that Scarlett said that this was for sexual gratification. Quote, we submit that all of the evidence plainly establishes a sexual motivation for the killing to derive sexual pleasure for herself and others. I'm sorry, my cat keeps scratching a box and I can't keep stopping recording. So you're probably going to hear her scratching a box in the background. I really apologize for that, but I've stopped recording like 5 times while this cat continues scratching this box. I don't know their fascination with this box at this particular time, but I apologize if you hear it again. Continuing on. The prosecution went on to say that while you do see that there was no evidence that Jorge was sexually assaulted, you do see that on Scarlett's part, the act of strangulation, which there's 2 incidents that they brought forth as evidence of strangulation, was in itself to Scarlett a sexual nature. Quote, it was an action as indicated by the evidence of Dr. Locklear, which did not in and of itself cause the death. The court is invited to consider that it was a gratuitous act, likely committed when the deceased was unconscious. They said to consider this, quote, an aggravating factor, and also consider the fact that Scarlett was, quote, fully aware of the death of Mr. Carreno, evaded arrest for 2 years, and derived sexual pleasure from it. Don't forget, Judge, respectfully, that you also put forward the killing of the cat as an aggravated factor, and quote, the events related to the cat are a feature that the court may wish to approach as an aggravating feature demonstrating the defendant's overall demeanor and overall approach to causing harm to others. We respectfully submit that there are no mitigating factors in this case. The defendant has shown no remorse for her actions. So then they went to the victim impact statements. And Carmen Carreno, which is Jorge's mother, read her statement out loud, which she read it in Spanish and then was interpreted, said that Jorge was a caring and friendly person who spread joy with his wit and contagious curiosity. This is all a quote. Quote, Jorge, with his caring and friendly nature, was always spreading joy with his wit and contagious curiosity. He was always ready to help and listen to others. He was overall an incredibly good person. The loss of Jorge has not only left an open wound in his family, but to all those who had the pleasure of knowing him. It's left a void impossible to feel. The pain of losing a son and brother in such strife is a trial no family should face. Today, his absence leaves a great wound in our hearts. His life was stolen. There can be no peace until justice is served. We don't ask for justice just for him, but protection for other families. Then, I believe I did say he was a triplet. I can't remember if I did, but if I didn't, I apologize. Jorge was a triplet. So one of his brothers, Gerardo, said that, quote, we were triplets, born together, grew up together. We were the best friends. My brother, above all, was an incredibly good person and full of love. He dreamt of a future where he could make a difference with his skills and ambitions. Going through the pain of losing a son and a brother is a challenge no family should face. His life was stolen by Scarlett. The last 2 years has felt like an eternity. It's been sleepless nights and days. So while the victim statements were being read, Scarlett just sat there, no emotion. Just sat there and stared at the people while they were reading their victim statements and pouring their heart out. So after all of that, Judge Chamberlain said, quote, you told the court you didn't want to kill a living creature, let alone a person, and it was Ashlyn who persuaded you to do so. You adopted the persona of a cat. You talked about the difficulties you've had since transitioning as a child to live as a woman and about your troubled relationship with your parents. The judge also said that there was, quote, no evidence that Scarlett had any mental health problems and that this issue was, quote, not the fault of your parents. Quote, all of this was part of an elaborate attempt to rationalize what you have done and to shift the blame to others. Judge Chamberlain also said that Ashlyn, look, he's saying the same things that I'm saying. Judge Chamberlain also said that Ashlyn was in the U.S., a freaking continent away, when the killing took place, and, quote, the decision to kill was entirely yours. Exactly what I was saying. Quote, you reveled in what you had done, returning at least twice to the scene to take photographs. Oh, wow, I didn't even know that. And made conscious use of your status as a murderer to secure the admiration of others who shared your interest in harm, death, and killing. You decided to kill someone because you believed Ashlyn Bell would find it sexually exciting, as in fact she did. As you later said to another partner, you killed because, quote, my lover said it'd be hot. There was, oh my God, I just realized, Scarlett said to somebody else, look, tell everybody you know and everybody you don't. Continuing, quote, there was therefore a clear sexual motivation for the killing. You also believed that you would derive pleasure, whether sexual or not, from the experience of killing a person. I am sure you did derive pleasure from killing Jorge, as you had from killing the cat. It is not possible to say exactly how, whether you hit him on the back of the head with a vodka bottle or something else you had in your backpack, then strangled him by applying pressure to the blood vessels just beneath his jaw using your hands or a ligature, then put him in the river where he drowned. You may have held him down in the water while strangling him. Either way, you intended to kill him, and you did. The decision to kill Jorge was not a reaction to something he said or did. It was not a momentary mistake. It was not a decision to made in anger or because your emotions overcame you. It is the culmination of a plan you've been considering and formulating for months before and after July 25th, as you showed an obsession with harm and death. Woo! That judge literally, look, that judge, I like that judge. Look, that's the judge I could be. This judge didn't hold back. Did you hear that long statement this judge gave? Dude, I'm just saying, props. So, after a 2-week trial and a quote of chewing out from the judge, just so tasty that the judge, just what the judge said, just Scarlett was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 24 years, minus the time that they had already spent in remand. Before Scarlett was actually sentenced to the life in prison, the defense ran up there. Oh, judge, wait, judge, please. Quote, we would submit that the starting point is 15 years, but the background will justify an increase to a higher figure. Clearly, it is not conduct that should be encouraged, and the court has to show its disapproval of this sort of behavior. What we do submit is that on this occasion, sadly, Mr. Carreno just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. This wasn't, as the Crown suggests, a planned forage in order to find the victim. Scarlett, like other people enjoying herself shortly after the lifting of the lockdown, was simply going on a walk. Went on to say that Jorge was not, quote, particularly vulnerable, certainly by the virtue of age or disability. Really? You're now trying to victim blame this guy? He wasn't vulnerable, so Scarlett couldn't have possibly done this. He went on to add, quote, it is interesting looking at the CCTV, there is no indication of kidnapping or forcing Mr. Carreno to go with her by Scarlet Blake. The judge said, go sit. I will disbar you. You heard my speech. You know I will disbar you. Go sit down. He didn't really say that, but in my head he did. Anyways, he did go on to say that Scarlett will be sent to a men's prison because the judge said the attacker used the transition in story to, quote, shift responsibility to others. Quote, Scarlet Blake has been found guilty of murdering Jorge Carreno. To that, she will be sentenced to life in prison. That is the sentence for what she has done. One has to look at Miss Blake's background and decide that she is in one sense a dangerous person. She persists in the lifestyle that she has adopted, and it's clear that it's unlikely that any parole board will come to the conclusion that she is likely to be released into society. So, all the fucks off. Go sit down before I disbar you. Detective John Capps said, quote, today's verdict marks the end of a long and complex investigation. Dude, you have no idea how complex this is. This case was up and down and sideways. Oh my God, one time it even went northwest. That's how complex the case was. Whew. Anyways, continuing on. Quote, I know that many will want to focus on the actions and behavior of this defendant. There are several aspects of this case that has been truly disturbing to see, hear, and deal with. This defendant showed calculated cruelty. The acts Blake has been convicted of are barbaric and chilling. The murder was premeditated with total disregard and disdain for life. Thankfully, crimes such as these are incredibly rare. I want rather to focus on Jorge and his family and pay tribute to them and the enormous dignity they have shown throughout this ordeal. They have put their trust in my team. I cannot begin to imagine the pain they feel. As the evidence has developed, they have had to come to terms with this not only being a murder, but the nature and character of this defendant, something that I know has served only to compound the grief they feel. There can be no beginning to understanding this senseless act. My team has worked tirelessly under enormous pressure to achieve this outcome and put the best possible case before the jury. Their dedication and pride in their work motivated to obtain justice for Jorge and his family has been outstanding. In gathering and reviewing evidence, they have been exposed to material that no one should ever have to review. This work is nearly always an unseen part of policing, but their resilience has been exceptional. I am proud of all of them. We have been assisted throughout this investigation by numerous experts, by numerous experts from the National Crime Agency whose advice proved invaluable. I also want to particularly acknowledge the assistance given to us by the United States Postal Inspection Service in this case. They went out of their way to ensure that recovering evidence and conducting inquiries in the United States was as smooth as possible. Their support helped ensure charges against this defendant and has played a significant part in subsequently securing a conviction. The skill and expertise of prosecuting counsel has been plain to see, and I extend my sincere thanks to them for sharing the determination to obtain justice for this family. I know the jury have had to see and listen to very disturbing evidence, and support will be offered to them. I want to thank them for their careful considerations in this case in difficult circumstances. While our investigation can never ease the pain felt by the family, I hope that this outcome at least gives a sense of justice and has given a voice to Jorge, whose life will forever be remembered by all of those he meant so much to. Look, this, normally, for lack of a better term, for the generation that's not mine when they say this stuff, no crumbs were left. My generation doesn't say that. That's more like my daughter's generation, but still, no crumbs were left. They ate, both the judge and this investigator. They ate and left no crumbs. Those statements. Look, I couldn't have said it better, yeah? Lawyer Haley Gary of the prosecution service said, quote, "This was a complex and challenging case, but once Scarlett Blake was identified as the person walking with Jorge Carreno on the night he died, we were able to build a case based on medical and forensic evidence that secured a conviction for murder. DNA on the top of the vodka bottle placed Blake at the riverside where Jorge died, and pathology results interpreted alongside Blake's interest in strangulation provided a clear picture to the jury of how Jorge was killed. Scarlett Blake will now spend a long time in prison for these extremely disturbing and cruel crimes. Jorge's family has suffered an immeasurable loss, but we hope that this sentence brings them some sense of justice." Jorge's ex-girlfriend, who he had been in a 4-year relationship with, her name is Irene Hidalgo, said to the Oxford Mail, quote, "Jorge was that person who was always willing to listen to me without interrupting. He would go with me to that art exhibition of that artist only I knew, and he put enthusiasm and effort into it just because it meant a lot to me. Jorge was a person who rejoiced in my accomplishments, who pushed me to achieve my goals, who celebrated everything good that could happen to me, not only when we were a couple, but always. I can say with certainty that I am where I am in part thanks to him. Jorge was that person who was proud of his family, for whom his siblings meant everything. He loved them, and he made you a part of that love. He knew how to convey it so well. He was that person who did everything with heart, with passion, and that made him authentic. Jorge had no malice. He only had kind words for everyone, and always a smile, even on his worst days. He was always ready to greet you with his wide smile. I will always remember that smile." And like I said, for this episode, there's a bunch of video, pictures, court documents that I'm posting in my Lamb Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder. So what, lambs, do you think of that doozy of an episode? And did I not tell you that it would be worth it? That I didn't get it out this afternoon. It's night, but it would be worth it. Did I not tell you? I cannot even believe the case I just retold you. Woo! Now, in my poll, I'm going to ask you, do you think Scarlett should have been sent to a men's prison or a women's prison? And before some people come for me, I am not bashing anyone or anything. I'm asking an opinion-based question. If you have a problem with a simple question that is not bashing anybody, then the easiest thing for you to do is not answer and just move right along. So, speaking of polls, let me go through last Tuesday's polls and some comments that came in. So last Tuesday's True Crime Tuesday was a man tried to get away with murder by watching true crime shows, and it was the case of Jorge Martin. And I asked you, did you think that true crime content has an influence on criminal behavior? And of that poll, just the poll itself, one person answered and they said yes. So it just turned out to be 100%, but that was only one person. So I mean, you're entitled to your opinions. If you think so, you think so. I'm not knocking you or anything. As for the comments, Christina Bobo said, I watch true crime to keep myself from ending up on an episode, so I can't relate. Maybe they binged the world's dumbest criminals. If after all their research, they still carried it out and came up with this plan, they should have went back to the drawing board. I'm just saying. She also went on to say that I don't blame you for not putting out an episode on Sunday. So that was not this Sunday that just passed, the Sunday before. She said, though I missed you, I needed a break too. Can you periodically drop something like the fun one you did the other day? I love hearing your voice and point of view of things, but I understand and agree that the weight of the stories can be draining. So to answer you, Christina, yes, that's what I think. This Sunday's episode was a good episode. It was a strong episode of two women whose father was a pedophilic rapist, and they banded together to hunt him down. Listen to this Sunday's episode that just passed. And then this episode too, as you can see, it was it was a tough episode, but what made it not so tough is law enforcement and how they handled it and everything they said. So literally, it wasn't as tough for me. Usually my anger, frustration, everything comes from how the case, like what happened and how the case was handled. But if the case is handled properly, then I can mentally deal with it. So far, these are the episodes that are coming out. I can't tell you what the rest of the week holds, but I will definitely, and I did definitely have to put out some lighter cases because like mentally I couldn't take it anymore. So all last week was lighter cases, and then this Sunday and today, lighter cases. Like my mental health was like, maybe I should quit this because I can't do this. But I just took that Sunday and then I've just been bringing y'all lighter cases. So yes, I could definitely do that. And I do want to thank all of y'all for being lambs and listening to me. And like I said, if you do want to support Love and Murder to keep the episodes going, to keep the way that I do it with my point of view and everything going, head on over to Patreon, become a lamb Patreon just to be a sponsor. And basically my boss of Love and Murder, patreon.com/Love and Murder. And that is all that I had for you for this True Crime Tuesday that turned into a full episode. Don't forget, another way that you can help me is to share this episode. Tell your friends about Love and Murder. Get more ears on Love and Murder. Share it to your social media. Share it to your friends' email. Share it to your text messages, WhatsApp, whatever. Get more ears on Love and Murder. And as I end each full episode, because, even though this is True Crime Tuesday, full episode, I'm going to end it, as I always do, with a reminder that it's all love and no murder. Stay tuned for my guest podcast commercial. Bye.
Witchcraft, the occult, extremist beliefs, murder. Tune in to Rogue Darkness each Friday and join host Raven as I uncover horrific crimes committed under the misconceptions and misunderstandings of witchcraft and other belief systems. I'll cover a wide range of crimes involving ritualistic killings and extremist beliefs to cult persuasion and supposed possession. Anything and everything that borders the line of horrifying. There's always three sides to a story. Side A, Side B, and then the truth. Let's uncover the truth together and explore the darkness of mankind, one crime at a time. Available wherever you get your podcast fix, simply by searching Rogue Darkness.